we're going to cook. It's quite funny. Jim had turbot, which is like the king of fish, isn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Then he had scallops, which is like the jewels in the sea. I've got a beautiful Kilnsey trout. Come on.
Yeah.
And guess what? Even more bizarre, I'm actually not going to cook it. Well, I am, but not using heat. Now, I am a massive fan of Kilnsey trout. I've been up to Kilnsey Park many times. Always do the Kilnsey show. Love it up there. And I think it's a great product. What you're looking for, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, is a beautiful slimy skin.
Yeah.
With fish, it's the only food that you actually want to see slime on food, which is like totally goes against the grain of everything you believe. But anyway, we've got a beautiful Kilnsey trout.
Can you just tell a few more chefs that, Steph, and just pass that on? Because I do get them ringing up, but you've sent me this turbot, it's all slimy. Well, you know, that is what it should be, you know.
Yeah.
So.
It means it's fresh. When it's dry, I mean, look at the eye on that. I don't know if you can see, but it's glistening, you know, it's a beautiful thing. So, beautiful and fresh. So all I'm going to do is keep my hand nice and flat, and I'm going to fillet this fish. So tell us a little bit, Jonathan, about Kilnsey Park.
Well, the interesting thing is, you know, trout was one of the first commercially farmed fish that you could get for very little money. So back in the day, back in the 70s, everybody used to have baked trout with almonds, didn't they? Mum, I can remember you cooking that many, many moons ago, and it was cheap, it was readily available. And then, you know, people went on to farm salmon and other fish, and it lost a load of popularity. And it's really a shame, because actually rainbow trout is a really beautiful fish. It's delicate, it's light, whether you buy them that size fish or you go for bigger ones, the jumbo trout that they do, which are excellent. And they're even rearing sea trout nowadays, which is equally super. So it's one of those kind of, we became a bit blasé about trout. You know, everybody ate it, you know, the dinner party menus up and down the land, and we sort of lost, it went out of fashion, but it is a really tremendous fish. And Kilnsey, the water comes straight off the hillside, it comes out of a spring. So it's beautifully clear. Yeah, you've been up to the spring.
You see these fish, and they're just swimming. You can see everything. You see it's absolutely crystal clear. And this is one of the things that when we did the Tour de France dinner at the Royal Hall, this is one of the fish that we gave everybody as their starter, as an assiette of fish. And apparently one of the ultimate compliments, at the end of the meal, we had chefs from all over Harrogate at this thing, cooking for, there was Gary Verity, there was all the sort of hobnobs of Yorkshire there, and it was great to see that Harrogate came together as a town, and we had chefs from here, chefs from all over, Rudding Park, everywhere. Yeah. And the ultimate compliment was when one of the guys said, is your chef French? And we thought, well, actually, maybe that's like a compliment, you know. Maybe it isn't, I don't know, but yeah. We like that.
But the water quality is one of the biggest influences on the flavour of the trout. You can buy some trout from, you know, rivers or farms where it's got quite a muddy flavour to it, because it's a bit, you know, it's a muddier water. But this fresh, clean water off the moor is just perfect for growing these trout, and they're just stunning.
So what I'm actually going to do is something a bit unusual. I'm going to cure the fish. So I have Maldon sea salt. I'm putting salt in, and then I have brown sugar, and basically it's about equal, sea salt to sugar. And then, folks, I have one of my favourite herbs. I brought lots of herbs here from the gardens at Rudding Park. Jonathan, I'm going to ask you, sir, are we all right to pass this round?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want everybody to have a little sniff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hold it in your hands, rub it, and smell, and it's absolutely intense. It's called lemon verbena.
Just remember your allergies, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want any phone calls tomorrow. I've come out in hives because of that, you know, whatever. You know, it's at your own risk. It's lovely, that.
Yeah, so lemon verbena is one of those herbs that actually was brought over, I think, in the Spanish Armada, and it was actually used to make soap.
I thought you were going to say the Romans then, and we were going to go into this "what on earth have the Romans done for us" sketch, which would have been quite funny, but, you know, apart from lemon verbena.
So I've got my rock salt, I've got my brown sugar, I've got my lemon verbena, and I'm going to add a few other herbs and bits and bats in there as well, just to get that going. And then this is called a Thermomix, folks. They are really expensive, and I've wanted one for years, and I actually bought one a couple of years ago, and I've thrown caution to the wind, and it's like having a second helper in the kitchen. They're a wonderful thing. So I'm going to pop that on the machine, pop the lid on, and then you just give it a really quick blast with the, just for a few seconds. And what you end up with.
Do you watch Saturday Kitchen? We were going to stand there for 5 minutes while it went down, but no, we didn't.
What you end up with is this, which is bright green. I don't know if you can smell it, but there's like a mind-blowing smell of lemon verbena up here. And all I'm going to do with that is sit that on a plate, or normally you'd use a tray, and then pack it down. This works really well with salmon. If you don't like the idea of trout, works great with salmon too. I've taken the bones out of the fish by splitting it and removing the bones, and then I'm going to pack some more of the salt cure on the top. What I want you to think about with this dish is I want you to think about sashimi. Very, very fresh, zing, pow. You know, that's what we're after. So I press that down and I let that marinate. And what I have here is not Shrek's worst nightmare. We have here some that's already been marinated. And as you can see, the water has turned bright green. The lemon verbena, the smell is really, really intense. And the fish has shrunk a little. And it's turned into almost like it's an unusual cured fish. Think about the texture of smoked salmon. That's where we're at now. So hopefully you're all still with me.
So the salt has drawn the moisture out of the fish, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to flip this over.
And that's what you want to see when you're curing a fish. The more expensive, the longer you cure it for, the more weight it loses and the more expensive it becomes. Yes, madam.
Very good question, madam. Gold star, top of the class. We need to cure it. A little piece like this, I actually cured this at about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. So it's not been in there long. If you're curing a whole side of salmon, I think you're looking at 2 days, maybe a little bit more. But all I'm now going to do is trim that down into batons with my knife and then cut it into small squares. A bit like you would steak tartare. I think this is very fresh, it's very zingy, and I think it's almost like a trout tartare, if you will. So all I'm going to do with that now is, it's quite a simple dish, but as Jim showed us earlier, some of the best things are the most simple to do. You know, they really are. So all I'm going to do with this now is add a few little bits. Anybody know what that is? Dill, good guess. Fennel, any particular type? Bronze, well done. Excellent, bronze fennel. So we're going to rip our bronze fennel off the stem, shred that down, pop that through, a little bit of salt, just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to add a few things. I've actually pickled some turnips here. These are baby turnips. And I've pickled them in a liquor using sugar and a lemon vinegar and also some of the lemon verbena as well. So I'm just going to pop a few droplets of that in there, just to sharpen that through. Then a little zing of lemon. And then we're going to plate our dish. I've also got here, folks, these are, has everybody been up to Rudding Park, been to the herb garden, seen the kitchen garden? No? Well, I really recommend you to have a look. Go up, have lunch in the clock tower, go up, have a sandwich, go and have a gourmet meal, whatever you want. But we've got all the produce that you see here, a lot of it is coming from our gardens, and they are beautiful. They are probably about 3 times the size of this room. 54 raised beds. Anybody who's got a raised bed at home will know that's quite a few. And it's just an amazing thing, Jonathan.
Yeah,
as
brilliant.
a chef, it's beautiful to be able to, you know, cook like that. We actually have we have 2 restaurants now at Rudding Park. One called the Clock Tower, and the other one is called Horto. It's brand new. Murray Wilson from Norse is heading it up. He's the head chef there, and it's using, Horto is actually Latin for garden. Oh. So it's really majoring on the kitchen garden, using all the kitchen garden produce. So there we go. Now, with our broad beans, all we've done is we've blanched our broad beans in boiling water, and I don't know if you've ever done this before, but if you blanch a broad bean in boiling water, these always remind me of when I was at school. And I used to hate broad beans at school. All you do is you open the broad bean, nice and gentle, and just pop it out. And that's the leathery, horrible skin that you probably remember as a kid at school. And there's the lovely, fresh broad bean. So we're going to use a few of those as well. We've got our lovely little pickled turnips here. Just going to trim those down. And we're going to plate our dish. So, there we go. Right. So we're using, it's funny, I saw Jim with his black plates, and I nearly brought all the restaurant plates, and then I thought, actually, how many of us are going to have that? I bought these from Morrison's for like $1.99. These are what you put your nuts and olives in at Morrison's and things like that. And I just thought, you know, it's nice to maybe do a bit of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I love the plates that Jim brought, and I think, you know, maybe it's nice to just show we have all those sort of thing, but, you know, this is a bit of something different. So, get my plates, got my...
I'm glad to see you still using plates, Steph, and not putting it on...
not into the slate revolution.
No,
those days have gone.
Yeah.
Slates are so 1990s, they really are. Yeah, we've moved on from slate. Right, so what we're going to do, use our spoon, give it a gentle toss in there, and plate this up. So we have our cured trout with the lemon verbena flavour. Then we've got here, and this is the one thing that, Jonathan, you struggled to get hold of.
I did, yeah, sorry.
This is yuzu. I'm going to pass this round, and I'd love you all to have a taste of this. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's Japanese, and I know we're doing Kilnsey trout, so forgive, I always cook Yorkshire stuff, but I used this on Great British Menu, and everybody loved it. And we struggled to find this, Waitrose in the end, £4.90 for that tiny bottle, but the flavour, really, I'll send it round, everyone can have a little
yeah, it was a bit of a panic on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock when you sent me the list of ingredients, and there was something on it that I didn't even know what it was. Where am I going to get yuzu from?
I'd like to set you a challenge,
Would
Jonathan.
ketchup do instead? I've got plenty of that.
Right, so we're going to pop our broad beans, fresh peas, broad beans on there, like so. And then our pickled turnip, here and there with the pickled turnip. Then we're going to use...
It's like spring on a plate, that, isn't it?
It
really?
is. This is very simple, but yeah, a quick one, just to get cracking.
Yeah.
And then, I've forgotten what's in the... I've got so much stuff round here, I've forgotten what I'm doing. Right, let's get the yuzu on the plate. Here we go. So... This is very zingy.
So what have you done?
I think when you taste it, it tastes like mind-blowing lemon and tangerine at the same time, and a bit Jaffa cake. You know Jaffa cakes? A little bit of, it's really plays with your mind a bit, but it's good fun. And
Is it a fruit?
it is a fruit, yeah, it is a fruit, yeah.
Well, if you put it with it's obviously not used all of a jar.
No, what I've done is I've thickened it. It's funny because in kitchens we use something called Ultratext. Now Ultratext, you can buy it on the internet. It's quite difficult to get hold of, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to use the old-fashioned way, so I've thickened it with a bit of corn flour, yeah? And I've used this stuff. This, I actually picked this morning. This is elderflower, and it's basically mixed with sugar and brought to the boil with a little bit of lemon. And it's like a cordial, and I used a little bit of this in with the yuzu to make that. So I'm going to definitely send this round. I want everyone to have a little
yeah, no, I need to smell
thing.
some of the yuzu.
Yeah.
Caused me
Especially
so
now,
much stress. I'm going to definitely have some.
Poor Jonathan is beside himself. Nasturtiums. Anyone who's ever eaten a nasturtium will know they're quite peppery. So I'm just going to trim those down to make them nice and exactly the same size. Using a cutter, just so they look a bit cuter. Like so. Then we've got some of the bronze fennel. Then we've got some chive flowers. I think this is a real palate cleanser for this time of night. Yeah. And then we've got some, this is land watercress, which will smack you in the face with pepperiness, which is lovely. And this is land seaweed. And this is another one. We grow this. It's one of the raised beds is taken over by land seaweed. And if you've ever eaten samphire, but actually grown in a raised bed, that's what this tastes like.
Wow.
So, and then I'm just going to finish it off with a tiny swizzle of Wharf Valley rapeseed oil. I'm a massive fan of Sally Ann and Jeff and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you see the fields of yellow. That's what it's all about. So that's my first two dishes, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, just fantastic. So, nice little starter palate cleanser for you.